So hello and happy Saturday and welcome to day 21 of Freedom from Anxiety in Uncertain Times. And if you are here, do say hello. And I'd love to know what's landing for you, so feel free to use the comments and let me know or ask any questions. You can use it however you wish. Okay, excuse me. So yesterday I was talking about listening to the guidance that's coming from that deeper place of our true nature. And I'm going to continue exploring that a little bit today because I'd like to give you some pointers in terms of how to recognize it, I suppose. And what I want to start with is something that was really helpful for me. Excuse me, a bit froggy today. So the feeling of being driven does not go along with listening to your inner guidance. They're not compatible, so to speak. And if you've noticed the way that I've been speaking about following your creativity, your inner wisdom, your GPS, your inner guidance, your inner genius, whatever it is works for you, then the feeling of being driven just doesn't go along with that. It's a completely different feeling experience. That's the word I'm looking for. So the feeling of following your wisdom and your creativity and the feeling of stepping into new possibilities and stepping into the unknown, that feels very expansive and it feels very open. It's got an energy to it and it's got its own momentum. And that energy and momentum is not made of willpower, determination, grit, or pushing, or any kind of driving force like that. So being driven does feel like that. When we're feeling driven, it feels like we're using everything we have available to us to try and make something happen. Now, I could speak endlessly about this experience of being driven because it's really familiar to me. And on day one, I spoke about how, hello Liz, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I thought that being driven was the way to get things done. So I thought that working hard, studying hard, showing up in front of all the people and places in ways that I thought were expected of me. That was my experience of being driven. It was exhausting, as you can imagine. And pushing through suffering and pushing through feeling tired and pushing through feeling contracted because I really didn't know that there was any other way. And ultimately, I sacrificed my own health and well-being in the process. So burnout was a regular feature in my life. I'd push, I'd get really sick, then I'd recover, and then I'd push again. And that was my behaviour cycle or the behaviour pattern that I just repeatedly played out. And over time, all this pushing and striving took its toll. And, over a long period of time, I ended up with 4 different diagnoses for 4 different chronic autoimmune disorders. Now, the good news is I still have the labels, but none of the symptoms. And that's one of the magical byproducts of this understanding as well, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So what I do want to talk about is in this exploration, when we look to nature, we can very clearly see that there are natural cycles and natural patterns that are playing out over and over. But they're not coming from pushing or striving either. And it's the same for us. We have these innate kind of rhythms or cycles as well. And there's a time for us to be active and be out doing, and there's a time for us to be growing and learning. And there's also a time for rest and for recovery. And there is no requirement for anybody to go beyond what is good for you. And it's starting to recognize your own internal rhythms and going with the rhythm of you in your own nature. So as you continue to explore this understanding with me, I really want to encourage you to follow that natural rhythm that's in you, and not get into being driven about things. Now, if you're anything like me and have a tendency to be driven about things, it's really easy for the ego to get stuck in. You know, you have an inspiration and you start to get into action, and suddenly the ego's taken over the beautiful exploration and inspired feelings. And you start hearing, well, I did anyway, you start hearing your thinking about, you know, oh, I got this, and I'll take it from here, and we're going to push this baby over the line, and we're going to make this happen, and whatever language it is for you. And I suppose what I want to really say is, that's the wrong direction. We're going the wrong way when we get into that kind of space. So, I'm going to share an experience with you, just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. This is an experience where there was a shift in me from being driven to acting from a different place. So, a place of inspiration, a place of enthusiasm, and a place where the motivation was just really obvious to me. So, a couple of years ago, I went on a retreat, and it was a self-care retreat, and I had absolutely no intention of doing any work while I was on this retreat. Now, being self-employed and having a lot of thinking about what needed to be done at that time, I did bring my laptop with me, like my little security blanket. I brought it along, but I didn't have any intention of using it unless there was an emergency or somebody needed me to send something to them. So anyway, after a day or two on this beautiful retreat, I settled down, my thinking settled down, and I found myself in a lovely quiet space, that, with that lovely feeling that I speak about. And lo and behold, in this quiet space, I get the inspiration to do a piece of work that I've been procrastinating on for weeks, that I've been grappling with really. It was a piece of work that looked hard, it looked difficult, it looked complex. It certainly didn't look like anything that was going to be easy. And here I was feeling inspired to do it and really motivated to do it. And initially I said, no, Jen, what are you doing? You know, you can't do that. You came here to take care of yourself. This is a self-care retreat. You're not supposed to be working. You promised yourself you wouldn't do any work unless it was an emergency. And this isn't an emergency. And blah, de blah, de blah. And off I went on that train of thought and jumped on it. And before you know it, I was a steam engine rolling on. But at some point it occurred to me that, do you know what, Jen, if you're really feeling this inspired and motivated to do this piece of work, then maybe there's something in that, and maybe that's something that you can listen to. So I did, and out the laptop came, and there I was typing away. And this piece of work that looked so hard and difficult, I just started creating sections, an outline, putting in headers. Before I knew it, I was typing up sections under the headers. And a few hours later, the piece of work was finished. So that piece of work that I had been looking at for weeks, that I just couldn't bring myself to do because it looked so hard and difficult, once I was able to relax into that quiet space and allow the inspiration to come, the information just downloaded into my brain. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea how it was so easy, but like I say, it was over in a matter of hours. I closed the laptop and put it away, and just, that was it. Left it there and didn't look at it again until I got home from the retreat a few days later. So that really helped me. That experience helped me to see that space of inspiration and open-mindedness, and of just allowing yourself to take just the next step, was very simple. It didn't take the effort that I had imagined it was going to take. It didn't burn me out. I wasn't tight or contracted inside. I wasn't exhausted when I had the piece of work done. I was open and I was expansive and I was going with the flow of what was showing up in that experience. So that's the experience I wanted to share with you. I realized that I was working from a different place inside of me. It just felt completely different. Following that inspiration, it wasn't just me and my brain carrying out the tasks or engaging my cognitive machinery to get the task done. I was in a quiet space. I was open to the unknown. I was open to something coming through me, and it did, and I heard it, and it was easy, and it was effortless. So, what I'm really encouraging you to do today is to allow yourself to take a little holiday from being driven, if that's something that comes up for you. Or take a little break from trying to control everything and making things work out the way you want to. I'm encouraging you to listen to that deeper space and let the good feelings that come from there guide you. Let the energy come from there. And instead of striving and pushing, just put that aside and just see what else might come forward. And if nothing comes forward in this moment, or even today, or even over the course of November, then instead of taking the stand of, oh, it's not happening for me, there's nothing coming through for me, this isn't working for me, I really want to encourage you to just stay open to the possibility that it will happen for you. Because in my experience, when we let ourselves settle and get quiet and nothing comes through, maybe the message is that it's time to rest and recover and that there is nothing for you to do in this moment. Maybe you're so exhausted and worn out from all the trying and the pushing and the striving that maybe the fact that nothing is coming through for you in terms of inspired action means this isn't the time for doing. Maybe just relax and let yourself recover and see what comes later. So if there's nothing coming forward for you in terms of inspired action, I want you to stay open to the possibility that it could happen for you. And I want you to be kind to yourself, and I want you to be gentle to yourself, and just try and connect with that place inside you where you're not the doer, and just see what happens. Because when we connect with that space, it's a very different energy. That energy fills you up. It doesn't drain you, and it's effortless in the doing. Now, I know not a lot of people, when they first come across this, are concerned that they'll end up like a couch potato, that they'll be sitting quietly on the couch and they'll end up doing nothing, and that's not the life that they want either. So what I'm talking about and pointing you towards doesn't mean that there won't be action and that you won't be doing something. You will be participating. This is like a co-creative process. You're working with your wisdom and with your inner guidance. There is work occurring, but the work is coming from a place of ease, and it's so much effortless. And you can work from there, or you can work from the place of being driven and pushing and striving and wear yourself out. And I'm sure you know the difference. If you try and think of a place in your own life where you've had the experience of being in flow in the creative process, or even if you can think of an experience in your life where something happened and came to fruition, but it wasn't down to just your personal effort, that maybe there was something bigger at play. And I'd invite you to use those examples and those personal experiences of your own as your reference point, because that's very helpful. I also want you to notice when you start getting tight in your body and when you start getting contracted. And I want you to start noticing when you ignore the signals that are coming from your body, the ones that are telling you that you need rest and that you need a bit of peace and you just need to put everything down for a few moments. And I want you to recognize what it's like for you when you get into that mode, because I'm sure you do sometimes. I know I do. And again, that's a normal and natural thing for us to get into this place of wanting to strive and drive and make things happen. But it's really, really good to know the difference for yourself in terms of how it feels to be coming from that place of being driven, or what it feels like to come from that place of being inspired. You know what it feels like. So let the inspiration be your momentum. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to be surprised by what's guiding you. And allow yourself to be open for how it might play out. Because in my experience, oftentimes when we try to create something in our lives, we have a concept or an idea ourselves of how it's going to play out and maybe the steps that are going to happen. And what I'm inviting you to do is to be open to your own inner wisdom coming up with something that maybe you had never even thought of. It might be a completely different route to get you to the place you want to be, but it just might not have occurred to you already. The other thing that I'd invite you to consider is to remain open to the possibility that what you have in mind as your destination, your inner wisdom can guide you to something much better than that. So that's a lovely possibility to remain open to, to get actually more than you hope for or more than you want. So when you're following your inner inspiration and you're allowing yourself to be guided by it and you're not trying to control how it goes, you're open to the inspiration and you're open to seeing what happens. And you're also open to receiving your inspiration. And that feels really good. So try it. Hopefully you're willing to explore this, to take a little pause or to take a little holidays. Hi Liz. Yeah, that is true. Thank you. So take that pause or take that holiday from pushing and striving. And if you do notice yourself wanting to come from that place of willpower, just see what occurs to you. See what your experience is when you do just take a break from that. And I'd love to hear what unfolds for you and what comes to you and what occurs to you in the comments. So put them in later and just put #replay, that's fine. Have an open mind. Listen to the feedback. Listen to the signals that are coming from your body and from your wisdom. Listen to the feeling of your wisdom, the feeling of inspiration, the feeling of that energy and that momentum. Tune into that. Start paying more attention to that and listening to that. And allow yourself to follow it more. Because the more you allow yourself to follow your deeper inspiration, the stronger that gets. It's like any other muscle. You build it and the inner feedback loop gets stronger. So the more you act, the more you listen first of all to your inner inspiration, and the more you act on that inspiration, the more that feedback loop increases and gets stronger and shows up more and more in your life. So I'm really looking forward to hearing how all this unfolds for you. Hold it lightly, have a little fun with it, take yourself to the lab and do your own experiments, and do come back and tell me how you got on. So that's it for today. Have a lovely Saturday, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care and love to all. Bye-bye.